Good evening, hockey fans. More trades in the National Hockey League. Two teams who are out of the mix right now. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Nashville Predators are making a trade, which will be moving into definitely the future, not really a trade for this season, as the Pittsburgh Penguins are trading Michael Bunting to the Nashville Predators in exchange for Tommy Novak and Luke Schenn. Luke Schenn, who is thought to be a part of like many teams many contending teams lists of, okay, who needs a third pair defenseman, who needs a guy who could even play second pair minutes, who's a physical defenseman a team that might need a physical defenseman. No, the Pittsburgh Penguins go out and acquire him after having just moved out Vinny Desharnais earlier this evening. But the bigger piece here, I think, is Michael Bunting for Tommy Novak. I'm really surprised that Luke Schenn is a part of this trade. I'm not really sure how it all fits. Like a team like, yeah, exactly. The Dallas Stars could have used Luke Schenn. Very weird trade in that regard. Bunting for Novak, okay, I get it. Two teams that are not competing this season. The Penguins wanted Novak, the Predators wanting Bunting. Okay, we make a swap now and they'll have them for next season. But Luke Schenn being involved here as well, I find it kind of odd. Are the Penguins trying to say, okay, we're getting him for next season, we need stronger defense for next year? Yeah. I don't know. I guess they're kind of looking towards the future in that way. But let's start breaking it all down right here. Don't have the J Fresh cards just yet, but what we know about Bunting, Novak, and Luke Schenn. I love this deal for the Penguins. As odd as it is, we got to say that there's a winner in here somewhere. I think that winner is the Pittsburgh Penguins, Kyle Dubas, and the Penguins. So Michael Bunting, who they got from the Jake Gensel trade, correct? They now flip him almost a year later to the day, 2 days away from it being a year later. He scored 19 points in 21 games with the Penguins last year. He looked great once he came to Pittsburgh. This year, not so hot, 29 in 58. Ice time did change a bit. Yeah, last year was playing 17-19. This year playing 15-15. I get it, not quite getting the same ice time, but at the same time, his shooting percentage was really high when he was at his best, right? When he was having that crazy run in his rookie year with the finishing second runner-up in the Calder votes, he was shooting at 13.1%, 13.2. It dropped back down to normal a little bit. But you know what? Even then, he's still shooting at 12.7%. You know what? I kind of take that back. That hasn't been a major issue of Michael Bunting's game. He's just not producing at the same level because he's not taking as many shots, I think, is the bigger issue there. But it's not all about his production. Michael Bunting as a player is not just there. He's bringing the physicality as well. Not so much as hitting, but more of his frame and the game that he plays. I know he's only 6 foot. I'm not trying to say, I know some people in the comments say, well, you say physical, but he's not hitting that much. I know, I'm not saying that he's a hitter. I'm saying that he brings that gritty type of game. That's the point that I'm saying here about Michael Bunting. So Bunting moves out as a forward for a forward. Tommy Novak comes back. So Michael Bunting, who's 29, Tommy Novak comes in, who's 27. Now the Penguins had Michael Bunting on a contract for 1 more year at $4.5 million, while Tommy Novak is also signed on for 2 more years at $3.5 million. So the Penguins get the younger player who signed on for the extra year at $1 million less. I love that for them. Now, for the Pittsburgh Penguins, also getting Luke Schenn out here. He's also 35. He'll be 36 by the time the Penguins want to use him more next season. His production here is not anything that crazy that we want to be looking at. But when you look at what he brings to the table physically, the 228 hits that he has so far through 61 games. Per 82 games in his NHL career, he throws 278 hits. So there you go. That's the type of physicality that will be brought to the lineup by Luke Schenn. So the Penguins lose out on the grittiness of Michael Bunting. They bring in a big physical presence in Luke Schenn, but he's 35. He'll be 36 next year. And they also get, I think, the bigger piece, Tommy Novak, who can play center for them, because who's playing center on this Penguins team after Crosby and Malkin? Is it Kevin Hayes for much longer? Is it going to be who's that? Cody Glass, guys like that. So I like this for the Penguins. Check LeBrun here. Let me check this out. Let's go back to Twitter. What's Twitter saying over here? Analytical Darling. Yes. Okay. So Jay Fresh is not home right now. Oh, that's too bad. Pittsburgh bound. There's also a pick involved with the National. That makes sense. Yeah, there has to be. For a 4th round pick, Pierre LeBrun is saying a 4th in 2026 would be what they're talking about here. Okay, so let's get back to it. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins, who just moved Desharnais earlier today. They definitely have the cap space to take on a little bit more, as they're saving $1 million in Novak, and they're taking on 2.75 in Luke Schenn. So Schenn signed on for next year. Novak signed on for 2 more years. Bunting signed on for next year. So for 2 teams who are out of the mix, this is definitely a trade of teams that are saying, okay, both these players are going to be learning our ways in the last 20 games of this year, but really the Predators want Bunting for next season. And really, the Penguins want Novak and Schenn for next season too. What's the plan there in Pittsburgh? I don't know, but I definitely like it a lot more for Pittsburgh moving into 2025-26. So look on the depth chart here. If I can say, okay, now Kevin Hayes has a little bit of help with not having to take so much responsibility of Crosby and Malkin. If one of these guys go down to injury or whatever, can you have Kevin Hayes as your second line center? Not so much. But Tommy Novak, he could be trusted a lot more. 43 points in 51 games in 2022-23. Last season, 45 points in 71 games. And this season, 22 points in 52 games. So that's been going down a little bit in that regard. I suppose the Predators aren't so sold on Novak anymore if they're looking to move him like that. So I'm not saying he can be a second line center. I'm saying he could slot in a lot better than Kevin Hayes, in my opinion. So that's what the Penguins get for their center depth. Plus, you can even move one to the wing. It's not the end of the world. Put Kevin Hayes on the wing, and then you have Novak at center, and Bemstrom goes to the fourth line, whatever. Maybe Blake Lazat's also going to be moved as well. That's it. On defense, on the right side, there's Luke Schenn for you. So Letang, Carlson, and Schenn is going to be your three guys on the right side for 2025-26. On the left side, you got Grzelcyk as an expiring deal. Shea's an expiring deal. Kolyachonok's going to be there for next year as an RFA. Okay. The defense and the goaltending is a bigger issue for the Penguins than just Luke Schenn. But yeah, in terms of value for value, I like this more for Pittsburgh. Now, Michael Bunting going to Nashville, I'm not sure how this really fits for the Predators so much. Like Stamkos, Forsberg, Marchessault, and probably Evangelista are going to stay as those top six wings. Novak's playing second line center. He was playing big minutes for the Preds at times. Not always. Like, don't get me wrong, 13, 14 average on the season. But as of right now, he was filling in that second line center role because you have so many injuries to this team right now. He's been having to play a bit of an increased role in that regard. So Carlson won't be back next year. As much as the Penguins might want to do that, I'd be surprised if they find a way to move him. But yeah, as of now, I'd say that's what they're looking at. J-Mac, bit of a weird deal here. Penguins win this one easily as Bunting could be out for the rest of the season. Tommy Novak could be good, and Luke Schenn is a good defender too. Does it not? No names. None of these names here are super, super flashy, but I like it a lot more for Pittsburgh. Sporty Mouse was saying, what is that terrible trade by Dubas? But I don't see a reason why you shouldn't at least say value-wise it's a win. If you want to say, okay, Caleb, Bunting's a great locker room presence. He always put in effort. We will miss him. Yes, don't get me wrong. We're definitely not saying here that Michael Bunting does not have value or that he's just, okay, thank goodness he's gone. No, don't get me wrong. But if we're looking value for value, Bunting versus Novak and Schenn, and like we say a fourth, I'd rather take Novak Schenn over Bunting in a fourth. In that comparison there. So the Penguins also give up that draft pick. If we go back and look at their summary, so the Penguins got a 5th round pick from San Jose, and I believe is it a 4th in 2026? I see. So 4th in 2026 is gone. The Penguins still have a 1st, 2 seconds, 2 thirds in that 2026 draft. In 2025, 2 firsts, 3 thirds, a 4th, and 3 fifths. So they're loaded up enough. And yeah, I like it a lot more for Pittsburgh than I do for Nashville, I do have to say. What's Nashville trying to do here? I guess getting some value out of these guys, but could Nashville not have traded Luke Schenn for like a 2nd round pick and then Novak himself maybe for a 2nd round pick too? Do they really want Michael Bunting, who's out possibly for the rest of the season with injury and is a going on 30-year-old winger signed for $1 million more than Novak, who's going to be an expiring UFA after next season? I don't quite understand Nashville's side of this. I'm not saying Bunting is invaluable. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I can't say I'm really understanding Nashville's perspective for not only wanting to do this trade, but for not capitalizing more on the value they could have gotten were they to move Novak and Schenn to a competing team, or even just Schenn on his own to a competing team. Is that fair to say? As part of my instant reaction and analysis, that is my instant and reaction and analysis to what I'm seeing in terms of the teams and who they are and what their situations are this season and into next season. That's what I have to say. I don't think we're going to be able to get the J Fresh cards just yet, but what I can do is just look into them from the off season. They will be updated later on, but I don't have a half hour to wait on the live stream, sadly. So that was Bunting last year. Let me see if I can find the most recent Bunting card. We have one from 1 year ago. Here we go. From February 27th. Nice. I got this one. Okay. So Michael Bunting, looking at his JFresh card. This is as of February 27th. So we're just like a week later now. And he's been out indefinitely. So actually, this is the card on Michael Bunting. So Michael Bunting, over the last 3 years, according to weighted average data, has been in that 43rd percentile projected wins by replacement amongst forwards. It definitely, his value has gone up over this past season, actually. Despite his point production not really being anything special, his value in what he brings in terms of the wins above those of a replacement level player has gone up from like that 25th percentile up to like somewhere around that 70th percentile. Even the strength offense has gone up. He's been in the 72nd percentile over the last 3 years. The finishing has gone up a lot as well, and the defense has gone up too. So his game has improved, as can be seen on this chart right here, into 2024-25. Again, these cards aren't always the be-all, end-all of who the players are, but his value for what he brings to the table has gone up over the last season. Now, in even strength offense, he's in the 72nd percentile, defense, 13th percentile, 36th for goal, 80th in terms of primary assists. You got to be interested in that too. As a team like Pittsburgh, where you need someone to be passing, who's passing to Gino, who's passing to Sid, who's passing to Rust, whatever else. Oop, didn't mean to hit that. Sorry. 0%, the appendix in the 0th percentile. Yes, of course, no appendix. That's a little joke there from JFresh. But yeah, levels of competition have been league average, levels of teammates. That's why he's playing third line minutes. He hasn't been playing with Sid, with Gino, and everything. That's the issue as well. When he was playing with those higher responsibilities in 2023-24, when he came from the Gensel trade, he was playing 17-19 per night and scoring 19 points in 21 games. Now this year in Pittsburgh, he hasn't been utilized in that same way. He's a negative 18, 29 points on the year, 15 of ice time per night. Not quite the same. Not quite the same Michael Bunting this year. But that being said, with the smaller sample size and less responsibility, he has improved his game, or at least the value that he brings has gone up. We can say that. So that's Michael Bunting. Let me see if I can find a card on NOVAK Schenn and Tommy Novak. What is JFresh here? We have Braden Schenn. Anything on NOVAK Schenn? This is as of April, no, of 2022, no good. October 2020, February 2022. No, I don't see anything really too updated. We have his stats from last year. Not so much. How about Novak? We have a Tommy Novak card. I'm not seeing one. So we get the Michael Bunting card. JFresh did say that that Novak is an analytical darling. There'll be player cards when he gets home, he says. So I don't know when that's going to be. The breakdown isn't always fully reliant on those cards. I just like looking at them as a nice little idea. If we do, did I see another type? Yeah, there is also the bench rates. We can look at these instead. If you want to also take a little peek at these, the bench rates. So contribution, paid contribution, unpaid contribution, power score. Honestly, I've never looked at these, so I got to get used to what these mean. I see them often, but I'm not really sure what they mean because I've never looked into it. It's unclear who won this trade according to this. It says bench rate. So here's Tommy Novak. I see a lot more green for him. Definitely, individual offense will be low for NOVAK Schenn. That makes sense. But his defense in that 75th, whatever. Novak, individual offense and contributions are in the green, while Bunting, definitely not strong on defense, according to this, but yellow on the offense and defense. Okay. Yeah, I can't speak for this model because I don't really know anything about it. Bench rates. Player cards, stats, blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't really tell me anything about it. Okay. Well, there's a little something for us. Okay, so that's the yeah, good point here from Robbie. This is something that I thought of right away too. Could Schenn then get flipped? If NOVAK Schenn does get flipped, it's going to be an embarrassment to the Predators, who could have gotten more. It doesn't make sense that the Predators give up NOVAK Schenn in a deal against them Bunting, and the Penguins flip him for like a second-round pick, right? So is that a possibility? I'd say so, but it would look horrible for Nashville. Horrible. The Desharnais trade is that the Penguins got a 5th-round pick in 2028 from the San Jose Sharks for Vinny Desharnais. Well, the guest joining us on stream in just a moment. Give me a second here. I was hoping to get a full graphic. No one put out a full graphic of the trade here. Hold on. Penguins. I want to keep this as the screen while I have my guest joining me in just a moment. And they don't want to show it to me, but so no one wants to have it. So I suppose we'll keep this. Hold on. Let me scroll down one more. Where was it? Elliot Friedman. Great. Okay, so joining me now, we'll have him around for the trade deadline most likely as well. But joining me now on stream is going to be my brother, who is a big Pittsburgh Penguins fan. He watches all their games. He'll have some thoughts on Michael Bunting and what he thinks about this trade. So we're going to go ahead and add him to the stage here. Pens King, are you in there?
Hello, hello.
Here he is. So Pens King, my brother, welcome to the stream. First time in years that we're getting my brother on. We've spoken about him a lot as a Penguins fan. He watches every single minute of every single game this season, especially. So what are your thoughts on this trade with Michael Bunting moving out and the return that the Penguins are seeing for him?
It's tough. It doesn't feel good. I'll be honest. To get back first, for me, it goes back to because for me, it's tied to the Getzel trade here and the return that we're getting through these plays. I don't think this is what we needed. I didn't hear what you said before. I just joined. What did you say?
Well, I'll show you on my screen a little bit here. Tommy Novak, what's nice about Tommy Novak and Luke Schenn here is that the Penguins are giving up a player who is 2 years older and making $1 million more and signed for 1 year less. So Bunting was signed on for 1 more year at $4.5 million and he's turning 30, while Novak is signed on for 2 more years and he's 27 and he's making 3.5. So I think that holds some value too for the Penguins, especially if you can say, okay, Novak's gonna be our full-time third line center. Kevin Hayes can go to the wing or just go out to pasture, whatever else it might be. And on the right side defense, your right side next year can be Letang, Carlson, and then slot in Luke Schenn, who throws like 250 hits, 300 hits per season. So while Bunting has value for sure, I like this more. I gotta say I like it more for the Penguins than I do for the Predators. But you're linking it back to the Gensel trade and all that too.
It's just tough because first, okay, we're talking about the defense. We don't have a defense. Chris Letang, Carlson should be transitioned to a forward because it's actually scary if you see the amount of mistakes he makes day in, day out, and the same ones again and again. And he lifts his head to the sky, but he keeps making them. It's tough to watch. Letang, he's not going anywhere, but at the same time, he doesn't have that. For me, even in his better days, that defensive ability, it's not his strong suit. I love Tanger. He's not going to go anywhere. But the problem is we don't have a real defense on this team right now. We have guys trying to fill holes. Ryan Graves, who has, 1 assist this season. It's him. It's tough to watch. Shea, you have some of these guys who are trying, but they're put into positions where it's a bit too much for them. We got Grizzlick. He's helping out. It's been pretty good offensively, picking up some assists. But again, the guy makes a lot of giveaways, a lot of mistakes.
Sure, but does this not help the defense then? If you're moving out Bunting and you're bringing in at least an equivalent, if not better, forward, and you bring in another defenseman, yes, he's 35 going on 36, but he's always the same guy who he is year in and year out. He's not going to be providing offense, but he's always going to be providing you the 250 hits. He's going to be doing the third pair things.
Yeah, we don't need any offense from a guy like that. Like, we need an actual defenseman. I think where it's a bit frustrating as well is our offense, our lines that we have are pretty scary too. I mean, besides the first line, Gino's not who Gino was a few years ago. It's tough to watch. And some of the guys that we actually have, you see those combos at third line, fourth line. Some of these guys shouldn't even be playing. It's tough. We're in a really hard position. They want to do the rebuild around the big boys. So they're not going to get rid of them. We can't lose Raquel. That would be devastating. Or, at the same time, you have to accept it's going to be a rebuild. There's not going to be another cup. You're not going to be winning games with Cody Glass, who was on the second line for a while. These are role players. And some of them, you could make a decent fourth line. I put Cody Glass, keep him on the fourth line. Tomasino actually third or fourth. Heinen's been decent, put him maybe on the fourth. The other guys, that's it. Beauvillier is probably going to be out the door. Lizotte too. Benstrom, he plays here and there. He's in charge.
Well, if you're trying to stay relevant, Michael Bunting's out for the season, or he also he might be at least.
Yeah.
You get Bunting out, get someone 2 years younger, making less money. I know you're turning this into like a state of the union of the Penguins.
Almost. That's just how it feels. I think the play. It's just feels a bit disappointing. Okay, we didn't want to give Gensel the money, and just to see where we are, you want to see something greater, because that's how all the fans are looking at it from this point of view. This is where you are now. From this trade, they're gonna tie it in from the trade now that just happened. And yeah, you're talking, and I agree with you. The defense, you need a guy that's just. He reminds me a bit of like a Hal Gill, type of guy, but at the same time, he's pretty old. You got him for season or two. So again, he's not there for a rebuild. It's tough. You wanted a young guy who's going to throw some offense, who's going to be, okay, is it going to be Crosby's partner in crime? Raquel's been doing really well this year. Rust has been good too. Again, though, second line, we don't really have a second line. It's been a rotating door, whoever goes on that second line. Okay, Beauvillier's hot a few games. Tomasino's hot a few games. But there's no consistency, and it's probably going to get worse going into next season. There's not much hope.
Yeah, well, I don't see, all that being said and agreeing with all of that, I don't really see the harm in this trade. Like, I know you're saying it's the Jake Gensel return and all that, but also there's what's his name, all those other prospects that came in that deal too.
It's not. I think that I'm saying this is a bad trade, it's not a bad trade. Like, oh, you got fleeced. This is horrible. I think, again, like you said, it's tied in a little bit to the previous one, and like the result of where we are from all of it. It just leaves us, I think, a bit in a hard place. Now, again, is there going to be a few more deals that are made? Is Carlson going to stay? Is he going to be out the door? There's a few things maybe that have the domino effect now that we're going to see in place coming in the next weeks.
Yeah, well, a comment here from Jack. He says, I disagree with your brother. I'm a massive Pens fan. Yeah, there's a bunch of AHL players, but this trade does help all the needs. There was really nothing to lose on trading Bunting. I think I agree with Jack there. Like, as much as I agree with everything that you're saying about the Penguins, as like the Penguins State of the Union, I don't see anything wrong with just this trade by itself. I don't see the issue in trading Bunting for a player who's younger, making less, and also just tossing in someone for defense, because that's been like abysmal black hole. As much as the guy might be old, not part of your future, he's certainly something there. Schenn is at least an actual defender. Move out Vinny Desharnais, bring in Luke Schenn, and as much as that doesn't solve all the problems, I think it does make the Penguins a stronger team. It takes away someone who's a bit more injury prone, gives you someone younger, making a bit less money.
Yeah,
and
I'm curious to see how he's going to do
these trades. No, not yet. After the trade deadline, I'll be putting out a roster in AHL 25 for that.
Yeah, look, the AHL team's doing very well. There's prospects. There's pieces in motion. Just when you look at it from the NHL level, it's been underwhelming. And it's not to say that I expected more, or probably anyone else expected more with the roster that we have. This is going to be what it is with who's available. Defense is probably where we really got to work on the most. Schenn, I like him for who he is. Like I said, he has a bit of time left. There's not much more to say on that trade. I like that at least got a defensive defenseman. If we had to bring a defenseman in, someone who could actually, like you said, block shots, play tough. And that's his job, right? So he's good at it.
Yeah. As Jack says here, the season's a loss anyways now. Retool for next year and get the head start now.
I agree. Yeah, you can't. And I think for a while they were trying to hold on to that hope. Even me, we had a little stretch where it was looking maybe we had turned the page and these guys could actually do it, with who they were coming together like that. But then, reality hits. Goaltending too. It's just there's leaks on all categories here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, you're turning into a bit of a Penn State of the Union, which is fine, but I don't think you need to be too down on. You're taking your sad emotions of the last 6 months and you're putting it on this trade. But
it's tough to watch those games.
Happy about this trade.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, with Novak, you're getting a guy. Hopefully, we're getting all these Nashville guys, so maybe something to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like Tomasino too. We'll see.
Oh yeah, I like the Penguins' return. Nashville losing a solid defenseman and a solid two-way player. Yeah, now if you look at the flip side of things, we're talking so much from the Pittsburgh perspective. Nashville here, I don't really see the point in them doing this because they could have traded Luke Schenn for like a second-round pick to somebody else. They could have, if they really wanted to trade Novak, I'm sure he could have gotten a second or third-round pick by himself as well. Instead, they get Michael Bunting, who's again is not a player with no value, but he is 2 years older. He's a bit more injury prone. Forget the appendix, just in general, a bit more injury prone of the way that he plays. Yes, he's a great locker room guy. Yes, he's a great presence. But if I'm Nashville, I just made my already old team a couple of years. I just brought in another player who's a couple of years older already for an old core of Stamkos and Marchessault and Yossi and
Do
Shea.
you think that's what they want, though? They wanted some type of grit or a little bit leadership type guy in the room
Yeah, I
because
see
maybe
it.
that's what they're missing this year and things just
Schenn had
didn't
that
come
too, though.
together.
Yeah, I wonder if the Penguins could even think about flipping Schenn. I'd mentioned that earlier. If they were to flip Schenn and get a second-round pick back, it would be an embarrassment for the Predators. Because that would end up being, okay, thank you for Tommy Novak, who's younger and making less money.
Yeah.
And we're then going to take a second-round pick for Schenn, too. So it would turn into Bunting and a fourth for Novak and a second.
Yeah.
Something like that. But, well, I digress here. That about exhausts the instant reaction analysis to this trade. Michael Bunting traded the Nashville Predators with a fourth-round pick in 2026 from the Penguins in exchange for Tommy Novak and Luke Schenn. I like it a lot for the Penguins. I see the benefits for the Predators, but in general, value for value, I think the Penguins get the better of this trade. And now both teams need to say, what are we doing in 2025-26? Because these are both two teams. You got the Penguins with Crosby, Gino, Letang, everybody. What are they going to do as everyone's getting older? Predators, tons of pressure on Barry Trotz, who just constructed a team that has been probably the most least amount of meeting up to expectations with the way it's Stamkos, Marshall, so everything's been working out. So both these teams are saying, let's make a little change and let's cross our fingers for next season.
For Nashville, though, I don't know if I would say that they're in that bad of a position. Maybe, and I know it's been a real disaster this year. They just need a bit more time for it to all come together because you look at the players on that roster; these aren't nobodies, and I think there's still guys who have stuff in the tank. Maybe a bit of a retool in certain areas, but it's not all over for them. I don't think.
I see it. So instead of them moving Schenn for a pick, they move Schenn in a deal that gets them a roster player that they're going to hope is going to be a part of their turnaround next season. Yeah. So that about does it. Pens King, we'll try to have you back on in the trade deadline. We'll have a bunch of different guests on Friday. So if you're available, we'll have you back on for some Pens talk, especially if there's any big trades like Raquel or anything. We'll get your thoughts on that one. So thanks for joining for the live reaction here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and letting me first give a bit of State of the Union. And again, it's a decent trade, and it's more the feelings of probably the frustration.
You're bringing feelings from the past. They're tainting your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, but like you said, solid D guy. Thanks for having me. And
all right, thank you, Bello.
Let's go Pens.
All right, we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
All right, so that is brother 782 joining in, my brother Lore, of course. So that just does it, everybody. Michael Bunting to the Predators. What are your thoughts on this one? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below or on the Discord server link in the description, where we're always breaking news there first, and then the trade comes next. So make sure to subscribe and hit that bell, as we'll have many more trades to come. Already the second or third live stream of the day. More to come tomorrow, I'm sure. And then live Friday around noon Eastern, we'll have live coverage moving towards the 3 p.m. Eastern deadline. Thanks everybody for being here. I wonder what this means for both teams into 25-26. We will see. Much love and talk soon.